I've always been backing Chet Holmgren, and then he lost. But even though he lost, I'm still full gung ho on Chet Holmgren. I think Banchero is a little bit better in my eyes because he did advance on Texas Tech. But at the same time, the reason I never said that. If you go back and watch all my takes at Banchero, I never said that he was a bad player. I said that he would still be like a number two pick. I just said for the Spurs specifically, I didn't want Banchero because I think Banchero doesn't have the correct mindset and personality to be drafted by the Spurs because the Spurs is all about family. And even in March Madness, if you go back and watch Banchero on plays, he's clapping for the ball whenever his team is down. He's like, let me do it myself. Like he puts on the Infinity Gauntlet like Thanos, and he's like, I'll do it myself. And that's not the attitude you have to have on the Spurs. I mean, that's sort of why people are always like, well, if Pop's the best coach, why is DeRozan performing better on the Bulls? It's like because DeRozan didn't fit Pop's system. Pop's system is team ball. Despite DeJounte Murray scoring 30 points a game, Pop's system is team basketball. And nowadays we don't really see that, especially in the last couple of weeks. Like just in the week of March. Or I mean the month of March, we've had, like a bunch of 40, 50, 60-point games. Devin Booker goes off for 70, and that's what DeMar DeRozan is doing with the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan is just kind of putting the team on his back, especially with Zach LaVine and I can't think of the Bulls players right now because I just had a total brain fart. But like almost all of them are out, and
yeah,
so
Lonzo's out.
it's like, they're like, why is DeRozan performing better on the Bulls if Pop's the best coach? It's like, because that's not how Pop plays basketball. And I feel it's the same way with Banchero. If Banchero gets drafted by the Spurs, he's going to try and do everything himself, and that's just not how the Spurs do things. So,
like, one thing that was nice to see with Banchero last night, one thing I was worried about with him all season is he'd get real lackadaisical and lazy sometimes when he wasn't involved.
Exactly.
And if he wasn't getting the ball, he'd just kind of trot over to the corner and sit there on offense. And I was thinking, okay, I don't like this. It seems like he kind of takes himself out of the play if it's not geared towards him. And then when he'd get the ball, if he went up against some physical defense, he'd settle for a pretty bad contested jump shot. You go back to like his UNC Duke games, his Virginia games, the games they lost against like Florida State and stuff. He has really good defenders on him, and he's forcing up jump shots.
Yeah.
What I like to see this past game is, he had a tough assignment in Williams from Texas Tech. And there were a couple times there that in the second half, he just put his head down, hit him with a nice spin move, and finished strong. And he was going to the ball if it wasn't a play drawn for him. And we saw that second half, especially him start to shine a little bit and develop as a playmaker. And that's what you look for in the tournament. I think he improved and showed he can do a lot more than what he has been doing.
So I'll piggyback off that. By the way, I appreciate Brandon for the follow. I did see it, but I didn't want to cut Swiss Eel off. And he did shout you out in the chat too. He said Swiss Eel is such a goat, so you don't gotta worry about rambling, man, because everybody agrees with me. You got good takes. That's why I got you on here. So
no, Brandon's the goat for following you.
Yeah.
Hashtag goat Brandon.
But that's exactly what I mean with Banchero, and people make fun of me because I pronounce it every time. I say Banchero and people say I'm wrong. I say Banchero, people say I'm wrong. So I don't know what it is at this point. But I said that again in my video where I was talking about Chet Holmgren. I said, you can look at stats, but stats and eye tests are two different things. Appreciate Penro for the follow. I really do appreciate it. I just completely lost my train of thought. Banchero.
Eye test and stats.
Yeah. I was talking about in my video of Holmgren versus Banchero. I was saying, like, if you look at Banchero, he like exactly like you said, he doesn't have much that he's doing off ball. And that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. It's like he just kind of chills out until his team is like 10 points behind. And then he's just like, all right, time to go Super Saiyan mode. And then he's like, I'm going to do everything and stay out of my way. And whenever he's not getting that sort of, when it's not being played through him, he just kind of is lazy. And I'm going to make a comparison. I don't know how people are going to take it, but that it sort of reminds me of Harden this year. Because if you look at, everything that happened with Harden and KD, Harden requested a trade, partly because of Kyrie's vaccination stuff, but also because, he was like, people were saying, he would roll his eyes whenever plays were drawn up through KD. And it's like, Harden, you have to realize that KD is just that guy. And, Harden was pissed that he isn't getting the same recognition that he did in Houston. He's not the first option anymore, and he decided that he wanted to get a trade. And in my opinion, he still isn't the first option. Embiid is still that first option on the Sixers, so I don't really know what changed for him there. But but I think that's a comparison you can make is Harden. He didn't like being the second or third option behind KD and Kyrie, and I think Banchero is going to be the same kind of way where he's a rookie coming in, and he's sort of got this ego with himself, and he's going to be mad when the game isn't being played through him, because that's what we're seeing now. I don't like talking down on players. I usually like hyping them up instead, but Banchero's just got too much of a head on him. You know what I mean? So
I'll say I don't know if it's so much his ego or that he just wasn't sure how to affect the game without the ball. Because we see that from a lot of people. We saw it from his teammate. His teammate's a perfect example of someone who doesn't have the eye-popping stats, but I think is going to be really good. AJ Griffin. He struggled early on to find his place with this Duke team because on his high school team, he's the guy. And then he comes in to play at Duke, and there's some returning guys. There's the number one player in the nation on there. And I think both of them just at times were having trouble finding their place and how to actually play with people instead of having people play with them. The only reason I say this is because I've never met Banchero or anything, and he seems to handle himself pretty well in interviews and all that compared to James Harden. But yeah, from my eye test, you're right though. I mean, it comes across as like laziness or frustration, and it may not be, and all that. So that's where I did like seeing. It was clear he'd put work into what am I gonna do if something is happening to where I'm not getting the ball. And we watched him last night go set a lot of impromptu off-ball screens for guys, and that made a big difference down the stretch, especially for Jeremy Roach, their point guard, getting going and everything. So I won't necessarily say he has an ego yet, but yeah, just learning how to affect the game even when you're not being force-fed the ball. That's a problem a lot of young guys have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all the best players in high school. It's tough to change that mentality, and that's why the Spurs were so special is you got guys who could adopt that mentality quickly.
Yeah.
Even if they were the best player on that team, they knew how to take a role.
Yeah, and that's why that goes back to something I've always said that I was saying early on in the season, which is don't trade for Ben Simmons, because I felt like he was going to have sort of that same attitude. And I mean, the Nets traded for him, and he's still not even playing, which I won't even touch any of that. But it was funny though, because like I said, my mom's a Texas Tech alumni, and so she was going to like the only time she watches college basketball is whenever Tech is playing, and so they were about to tip off with Duke, and it was she watched me in the living room see like Gonzaga lose, And so I was like, well, now that I said to her, I was like, well, now that Gonzaga lost, I kind of need Duke to lose because of Banchero. And she didn't know who he was because, again, she doesn't really keep up with college basketball. But, they're showing the pregame, warm-ups and everything like that. And I was like, this guy. And I pointed to number 5. And I was like, that's the new guy everybody's talking about. I need him to lose so that I keep some credibility. And I go to the gym later that night. I was at the gym during the Duke Texas Tech game, and during the second half, I just get a text from my mom that says, "You're right, Nathan. Number 5 can kiss my ass."
Tell your mom that's great. Your mom's one of my new favorite people. Anyone who hates on Duke, I'm gonna love. So
yeah, you went. I knew you. I knew whenever we talked about Banchero, it was gonna go that way with you being from UNC and him playing on Duke. I knew that was gonna come up eventually.